Nation.
SMD Law is the official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Check them out on the interwebs at smdalaw.com or at 866-529-3537. No matter where you are in the state of Michigan, Upper Peninsula, Lower Peninsula, it doesn't matter. They have an office near you. So whether you need to send a letter to an annoying neighbor, or you're a criminal and you need defense, maybe you just have problems with elder law, check them out, smdalaw.com today. The official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Call them first. Then you act.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. Spartan Nation, great to have you here. We now bring in the Grand Poobah of SMD Law, the official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Remember, when your next decision matters, you call them first and then you act. 866-529-3537 or on the internet at smdalaw.com. The Grand Poobah himself, Jeff Michalowski, answering your legal questions. Jeff, how are you, buddy?
Great, Hondo. How you doing?
Well, I'm not as good as you, Mister. I'm headed off on vacation.
Well, every now and then, everybody needs a little break, and that's what we're doing. Head down to sunnier weather, but I'm doing all the listeners in Radio Land a favor. Without failure, every time I go on vacation, the weather is nicer in Michigan than it is where I go. So I don't get to come back with any bragging rights.
Nice. It's like a buddy of mine went to Vegas last week, and it was warmer here than Vegas.
See, your buddy and I need to travel more often and help everybody else out.
Okay, I agree. Jeff, before we get into it, I want to dig in real quick and just ask you, because you live down there, you're a sports guy, you play college football, and by the way, Jeff joins us each and every week to answer your legal questions. If you have legal questions for Jeff, you can, of course, hear him on the radio. You can hear his podcast, which we now put up as a story at Spartan Nation. And we also put it on our YouTube channel, and it goes on our podcast forums. There's 4 ways to hear Jeff each and every week. Jeff, and if you have a legal question for Jeff, just send us the email, SpartanNationMail, MAIL at yahoo.com, SpartanNationMail, MAIL at yahoo.com. Put in the subject line, question for Jeff, SMD Law, anything like that, and we'll get to it. But Jeff, before we get to the questions this week, I want to just kind of chit-chat with you about, I know you played college football. I know you love Michigan State. But you do live down in Sterling Heights. I'm just curious, in the Sterling Heights area. I'm just curious. I was asked it this week, and I thought it was really big. What is there anything that would compare to a Detroit Lions Super Bowl win? I mean, a Michigan State national title in football, a Michigan national title in football, basketball, Tigers, Red Wings, Pistons. I don't think anything would compare like the Lions, the way the Lions own this state. Do you agree with that?
I would agree. It's NFL is still king, and I was going to bring it up to you. There's only under 100 days left until college football starts up again. But college football is still second seat to the good old NFL. The NFL's king, and no matter how much they say, baseball is America's pastime and everything else, man, have us Lions fans suffered. It's been crazy. I guess it's kind of like what it would feel to be an Indiana Hoosier football fan.
Call your shot right now. How many wins for the Lions?
Oh, God, you're putting me on the line. I'm saying 9 this year.
All right. As a Lions guy, in the second year of Patricia, would you be happy with that?
I think I'd be happy. It would show some progress. It would show a new direction. I always looked at the Lions kind of like the brown paper bag I bring my lunch in every day. It's a bit tattered, it still gets the job done, but eventually you got to throw out that bag and get a lunchbox. And I think that's what they're doing. I look at Patricia as the lunchbox. It's a rebuild, and it's happening quick. I think that's what a lot of fans have to understand. Yeah, we said you got to exercise patience before new coaches, but with this coach and this administration, this staff, it is a whole overhaul of everything. I mean, look at the roster from 3 years ago. It's a completely different roster than what they have right now. And I think that for them to pull off this much of a construction, period, right under the eyes of everybody, I think it's impressive because nobody really notices that it's a new roster. It's a different game. And especially this year coming in, there's a huge overhaul.
I agree. All right, Jeff, first question comes to us from Kevin. He's asked us not to use his city I think you'll understand in a minute, but Kevin says, Dear Hondo, I have a question for the attorney from SMD Law. My wife last year made nearly $250,000. I made $50,000, and when she left my children and I got custody of my kids. However, now that my youngest daughter has decided she wants to dress inappropriately and do things with boys that are older than appropriate, she's decided she wants to go live with my wife. That's her choice. I understand it. My daughter is 15 years old. However, when we went back to court with friend of the court, they settled on child support, and I have to pay a very large amount of child support. With the income being 5-1, I do think that parents should have to pay. I'm not asking to get out of anything, but does it become almost worth it to get an attorney to fight when it seems to be outrageous?
I would say definitely take a look at it with an attorney. We have a great family law attorney here that'd be happy to at least give you a consult, maybe look at the numbers and try and figure out why it is the way it is. Friend of the court was involved, Hondo. They use a very objective formula.
Yeah, that's
mostly based.
Let me just interrupt for 1 second, because you just said something that what happens is when people send us email, we just highlight parts to read. But in the email, it says that the friend of the court used a formula on a computer based off of both people's W-2s.
Okay, and that's exactly where I was headed. There's a state standard based off of W-2s, but there are other factors involved with it. And the key factor, a lot of people don't understand, it has to do with the number of overnight visits or overnight custody days that the child has with you. And if your daughter is going to live with your ex-wife full-time now, all of a sudden you've given up the overnight days, which can be a factor in your favor. And so a lot of times you see attorneys trying to fight over the custody order, and it has to do with days. The days actually equates to the child custody formula itself. So that's why it's so important to have those overnights. Ultimately, it's going to be based off of the formula, wages, overnight visits, health insurance, a few other factors. But it sounds like Kevin's a pretty good guy. He understands he's got to pay something. How much is a big question. I think we should definitely have an attorney take a look at that. Again, Donna at our office would be more than happy to do a review of it, sit down with Kevin, and Hondo, we're going to give him a fair shake. If it's something that we don't think he could prevail on, we'll tell him that. And maybe at the end of 1 year, you could go ahead and get your free review, I call it free review, with friend of the court, because you're entitled to a review at least annually, unless there are extenuating circumstances. So, Kevin, we'd be happy to take a look at it. Maybe we could figure something out for it.
All right, the next one comes to us from Phyllis. Phyllis lives in Birmingham, Michigan. Phyllis says, Dear Nurse, today's kind of the first two emails are family custody stuff. She said, my oldest son went to live with his dad. His oldest dad doesn't care if he skips school, doesn't care what he does. So he went to live with his son. I now have to pay child support. The problem is my son, who's 16 years old, does not want to come see me, says that I'm too strict and his dad won't make him. Since I'm not seeing my son anymore, is there a way that I could get a reduction in child support? I don't mind paying for my son, but he's going to stay with my husband because he's allowed to skip school, because he's allowed to do things that he shouldn't be allowed to do, and he doesn't make him come here. Is there a way I could get help on my child support?
Hondo, I think the answer to that question lies within the answer to Kevin's question, and that is when you lose those overnight days, you actually will end up paying more in child support. But again, we'd be more than happy to take a look at it and see if we couldn't explain it.
Okay. Next one comes in from Richard. Richard has a really good one. He says, Dear Mr. Carpenter, my son has been raised by me. I am his father. In our family, we really believe that the parents will help pay for housing and for food and that kind of stuff. But because of my older brother's decision to party when he went to college, we don't actually pay for school and books. It's just a tradition in our family. My son is applying to get financial aid. They're trying to go off of my income taxes. The problem is I'm not going to be paying. Is there a way that an attorney can help? The school says there's nothing they can do since I'm the primary parent. His mother's passed away. They're going to go off of my taxes whether I'm paying or not.
That is correct. That's how the federal formulas are calculated, based off of household income. So there isn't a whole lot an attorney can do with that. It's been time tested. We're kind of stuck with whatever the calculation is. Good financial aid offices, though, will help direct you to grants and other smaller scholarships to try and defer the cost of tuition.
All right, last question for you, Jeff, and this one's kind of fun. It comes to us from Harper. Harper is 6 years old, and Harper lives in Perry, Michigan. Harper says, "Dear Mr. M," I like it. I love it. I love pronouncing your name wrong when people spell it wrong. But you got to respect Harper. It just comes in as "Dear Mr. M." That's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Right.
Fire away.
Here we go. Dear Mr. M, I have a question for you. My father told me that if I didn't miss a day of school, that I was going to get $100 when school was out. When I finish school next week, I will have all of it. Well, he's taking us out of school on the last day early to take us on vacation, and he says I'll not be eligible for the $100. I don't have a lot of money, but I do have $1.13. Would that afford a letter being sent to him that I should get my $100 because he cheated me? He said I should ask you and save the $1.13.
Let's save you the $1.13 altogether. What's my favorite answer, Honda?
No!
You can't sue your parents for that. Let's do a legal analysis. Let's say you could sue your parents over that. There was a promise made for which no consideration was given. Further, I believe the court would rule that it is a contract against public policy. We're not going to start paying kids to do things they have a legal obligation to do anyway. Attend school and be good in school. Listen to your parents. You'll be better off in the long run. Right, Hondo?
Yes, sir. Harper, sorry, princess. You got nothing. All right. He's Jeff Michalowski from SMD Law, the official law firm of the Spartan Nation. Remember, you call them first, and then you act when your next decision matters. 866-529-3537. 866-529-3537. SMDAlaw.com on the internet.